like to call this meeting to order of the Geneva Historic Preservation Commission for Tuesday, May 21st. We'll start with a roll call.
Jensen? Here. McManus?
Here.
Phillips?
Here.
Solomon? Here. Stazen?
Here.
Zelmer?
Here. We have a quorum, so next on our agenda is the 5-minute field guide. Oh, we approve, I'm sorry.
I'm so excited about it, yeah.
So I want to get this done before the weather comes, so.
That's right.
I did. Approval of meeting minutes. Does anyone have any changes or additions, or?
I abstain.
Okay. Anything else? If not, can we get a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented?
I move to approve the meeting minutes from April 16th, 2024.
Second.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Second.
hey, you can call the roll on that one too.
Jensen?
Aye.
McManus?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Solomon?
Abstain.
Stazen?
Abstain.
Zelmer?
Aye. They're approved. Now we can jump to the 5-minute field guide. I was so excited.
I hope you're not disappointed tonight. Tonight's 5-minute field guide is on the gold standard of preservation. When I first arrived at Geneva nearly 11 and a half years ago, I was reminded frequently that Geneva had a reputation as a cutting-edge preservation community and was considered the gold standard of preservation. I was reminded the city of Geneva was among the earliest Illinois communities undertaking formal preservation work in 1979 when the Central Geneva Historic District was listed in the National Register of Historic Places. During my tenure and in conjunction with city staff, residents, and developers, I have tried to maintain the expectation that Geneva is an example of premier preservation practices statewide. At the same time, I hoped to elevate the Geneva Preservation Program by advancing 21st century professional standards, practices, and objectives of the field. As the staff liaison to this commission, I hope that I've had a moderate level of success in continuing that legacy. With my imminent departure and in the midst of nationwide celebrations for National Preservation Month, I want to leave you with a list of hallmarks for a cutting-edge preservation initiative at the local level. Preservation requires a formal review process that benefits from respectful discourse between those charged with administering a legislative process, in other words, the Commission, those who are community preservation advocates, and those who object to the practice of preservation. Hearing and considering all voices encourages and yields equitable review of preservation projects. Successful community preservation requires that the tenets of preservation are introduced at the onset of any planning project within the city, and that those tenets continue to be promoted throughout each approval process. Injecting those basic preservation principles as an afterthought, or a hoop to jump through, or a hurdle to overcome after a project is well underway only frustrates developers and puts the Historic Preservation Commission in an unfair and unenviable position. Cutting-edge community preservation that is a meaningful component of and an authentically integrated function of community development at all levels yields the most positive benefits for the entire community. Cutting-edge preservation utilizes an ordinance that does not penalize or thwart efforts to preserve historically and/or architecturally significant places while respecting private property rights with the common goal of achieving equitable preservation of authentic community character. Successful and cutting-edge preservation makes determinations based on factual evidence rather than personal or popular opinion or even political pressure. Many of our most revered places in America were not valued by the majority of people at the time they were preserved. A cutting-edge preservation community is able to identify and discuss a property's historic integrity, architectural integrity, and structural integrity, and then be able to differentiate, interpret, and explain those standards of integrity. The practice of preservation requires continually learning, continual learning to understand the built and natural environment around us in an attempt to maintain those places that reflect our evolving understanding of our collective heritage. As Joni Mitchell famously crooned, "You don't know what you got till it's gone." Preservation has evolved and encompasses telling the fuller story of a community and its people, preserving those places that may have been overlooked or undervalued in the past. The homes, businesses, and industries associated with immigrants and marginalized groups who built a community with their very own hands, commitment, determination, and investment. If we have learned anything in the past 60 years of the preservation movement in America, it is that sanitizing history or reducing it to only the history of a specific class of people or only the most elaborate buildings does not benefit or engage our society as a whole. Preservation is an evolving field of study that requires us to reconsider our environment through an ever-evolving lens and broader perspective. Preservation recognizes that authentic history isn't always pretty. The history of a community is not represented in only the most impressive or most visually interesting properties. Preservation is about recognizing and valuing the extraordinary stories of ordinary places, seeking to understand the historical significance as well as architectural character of a valued place. In the 21st century, preservation requires an understanding that impressive architecture is no more important than those humbler places where notable people lived and worked or where notable, simpler events occurred. The primary focus of preservation should not be to stagnate a community or embrace only a specific point in time. Rather, progressive preservation seeks to assure that our authentic places are preserved and repurposed in a manner that respects the past while being embraced by and being relevant to present and future generations. Preservation requires innovative, dynamic architectural solutions, even contemporary solutions when appropriate, to ensure that historic properties remain vital and engaging to future generations. Successful preservation integrates and repurposes historic properties for continued day-to-day interaction by members of and visitors to a community. Preservation is not about repurposing some salvaged materials from a demolished structure in new construction. The practice of preservation seeks to retain authentic places. The practice of preservation seeks to maintain authentic materials rather than replace those materials with a close but modern facsimile. Preservation is not about erecting memorials to buildings and plaques which have been intentionally discarded. It's been proven monuments don't engage future generations and often leads those generations to ask if a building or place was important enough to be commemorated by a monument, why wasn't it important enough to be preserved and adapted for new purposes? Over the past 45 years, the Geneva community has been successful at preservation. However, to maintain its cutting-edge reputation, the professional practice of preservation must continue to evolve at Geneva. I am honored to have been part of that evolutionary process. However, if any of the identified hallmarks in this presentation of cutting-edge preservation seem to have not been realized locally, then those unfilled efforts should become the goals for which Geneva and its preservation community reach in their quest to maintain or reclaim the credible honor of being the gold standard of preservation. Any questions or comments?
Bravo. Here, here.
Very good,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was getting
Thank you, Michael.
misty over here.
Yes. With that, we will move on to review of building permit applications. The first on our agenda is 108 South Sixth Street, case number 2024-023. Go ahead, if you can
Thank you.
introduce us to it.
Thank you, Chairman Zelmer. So the property at 108 South Sixth Street is located in the far western portion of the local Geneva Historic District and is also in the far western portion of the Central Geneva Historic District listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The home was built in 1901 for Frank and Mary Sanders, who were basically a newlywed working class couple, and it was here they raised their family. At some point prior to 1998, the original exterior siding trim was removed, along with the historic full-width front porch. It is probable that the eaves of the house were modified at that time. In place of the original siding, the first floor had T111 reverse board and batten panelized siding installed, and then fake stucco siding panels were installed at the upper panels with wood trim to emulate a sense of half timbering. At that same time, the attic window at the front street-facing gable was replaced with a non-historic octagonal window in the approximate same location. Based on memories of previous owners, the house was originally clad with a narrow clapboard, likely a 3 or 4 inch exposure. The applicant is requesting approval for the removal of the non-historic exterior siding and replacement with a 6-inch exposure clapboard siding, LP Smart Side, with a brushed smooth finish as required by our siding policy, and inserting traditional trim details around the windows and at the eaves. Additionally, the request includes the restoration of a historic attic window. Whoops. There we go. A historic attic window that has been retained on site and would be reinstalled in the street-facing gable. I'm sorry that the pictures aren't clear. These have come over a series of cell phone images. The question of how many windows were originally located in the gable is indeterminate. We have not found any historic photographs. There are 2 of these windows in the possession of the property owner. But as you can see from the picture on the right, the framing has been modified, likely in the 1940s or 1950s, as evidenced by the difference in sheathing and framing materials below the octagon window that was added at a later date. But the intent is to install one of these windows in the center of the gable at the historic location below the octagon window location as part of this project. And of course, the octagon window would be removed. I have provided a staff analysis in the staff report, and that information is provided for your use. I do want to point out that this project, as you can see, the house has been heavily altered over time, and this is not an attempt to restore the house in particular because of 2 reasons. One, there are no historic photographs to document what the historic details look like, so it would be a guesstimate at best. And secondly, this is a very budget-driven project. The budget is being stretched to the limit to replace the siding which needs to be replaced. And so therefore, as I said, even though the original siding may have been a narrower siding, the proposal is to use a wider siding. This table is provided just as a comparison to show you that to go from a 6 7/8 or a 5 7/8 down to more of the historic exposure width would be almost an increase of 40% in material. And so that directly relates to the cost of the project, and the owner has identified that the project is already stretched to its limits. So with that introduction, I would like to introduce John Lewis from Family First Services, who is the contractor for the project. He can come to the lectern and he can fill in any missing gaps for the project and answer any of your questions. John, the floor is yours.
Hi. Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome. Do you have anything to add from Michael's presentation?
No, the only thing, I mean, he didn't talk about, he wanted us to, I met with Michael on site because we want to make this look better. He wanted us to make sure that we put a trim detail, like a band board, like is on the house now, but we talked about going higher than where it is so that it doesn't interfere with the windows. Because where the band board is now, especially when we go to put a crown molding of some sort over the windows, is going to look terrible. So we're going to go up a little higher. There are some pictures where she had patched the stucco boards with some more trim above the brown trim. So it's going to go up probably about 1 foot. The window that she found in the attic, she has at one of her properties in Wisconsin. She's going to have it rebuilt because it's in pretty rough shape. but we're gonna have the frame rebuilt so that, we're gonna come down to where, probably about the middle of the gable, where the framing was, so that it would look right, that, I mean, the whole, in my opinion, the whole house looks hideous, but that octagonal window, that octagonal window is just the icing on the cake, so we just wanna make it look where it fits into, that's a really nice neighborhood, we wanna try to make it fit in better.
On the scope of it, just to clarify for my knowledge, you're replacing both the stucco and the T111, right?
Well, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's perfect with us.
Yeah, we're gonna,
Yeah.
we're gonna do
Yeah,
all of it.
I just want to make sure that it's
Yeah,
clear
no.
that it's all of it, not just,
And that's really not even T111, it's really not that high a quality of a product that's on there.
okay. Yeah, we prefer the whole thing to
No.
be done, but, yeah.
Are you finished, Paul?
Oh, yeah, yes.
What color will it be? Have you decided on?
It's I had brought the colors in there and we had discussed them with the homeowners. Can I come on? I'm not the homeowner, but we had discussed going with like this Timberland suede, and then with probably like a sand dune trim. She had originally wanted to go with like the garden sage, but we thought that was a little too bright. So something like this and like that.
Very nice. What about the crown molding that's going to go by the windows?
I believe it's gonna be with the Timberland suede, and that's gonna be an AZEC material, which is like a PVC, like the vinyl, but it looks like wood, and it's just a better crown molding, it's just easier to install.
Perfect. So I'm just a little confused on the windows. Does the homeowner, does she have 2 windows?
There are 2 that she found, Michael, and when we met with Michael, he seemed to think that there was one that was originally in that side gable, along as with the front gable. The homeowner doesn't have any plans to put one into the side gable, just into the front gable. And when I talked with Michael, I had asked him if he thought that the 2 windows were like an opening and operating window in the front, and he didn't seem to think that that would be appropriate from that time period. So he seemed to think that there was one in each gable. We just want to put the one in the front.
The reason I don't believe it was a vertical orientation is because they both have a heavy bottom sash instead of a typical check rail that you would expect on a double hung window. So the details of the window sash themselves don't lend themselves to being a stacked unit. And I don't think they were side by side looking at the framing in the picture that was provided here. It appears that it sat rigid between the 2 central studs, which is about the dimension of the window.
Well, that's amazing that she has that window in
It
her
is, isn't
possession.
it?
And it's
That's
really,
cool.
it's wonderful that she is going to refurbish it too and then reinstall it.
The one question that I would have is, would it be appropriate with that window to still put like a crown molding on top of it? Okay.
Yes.
It seems that that would look out of place to me, but it's not my call, so we can put a crown over it. And would you still put a regular sill under it, even though it's on an operating window?
Yes, that would be a
Okay.
traditional detail.
Okay.
And you are doing, you are having like a sill and then side rails on the, a side trim on the
Correct,
windows
a 1x4, which is 3.5 inch side trim,
Sure.
a tilted sill, and then a crown on the top as per what Michael had suggested would have been appropriate for the time, because that's what we want to do.
Okay.
He was very helpful in telling us what would be appropriate to be there.
And corner boards on the corners of the?
Correct.
Okay.
Now typically what we use with this 6 7/8 inch exposure is a 6 inch and a 4 inch board, so it's a 6 inch corner.
Yeah. I'm sure that would be appropriate. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
Be a huge upgrade.
Yes.
it will. It'll look a lot better.
That window in the gable, that's not colored glass, right? That's just a or is that? Is that
It is actually colored glass. It's two
Okay.
amber panes and two ruby panes.
Ah,
so will that be retained or?
Yes, that's the plan.
Okay, great. The band board that separates the second floor from the gabled area, is that going to be removed or will there be another band board?
There will be a band board put in. That one is too low. I had sent some pictures that I put some of my beautiful handwriting on. If you go through those, it'll show you, give you an idea where they're gonna go.
Those pictures were included in the
Yeah.
packet that all the commissioners
Oh, okay.
received, so they have seen those.
Yep.
Can I show you?
Sure. I saw the one band board that separates the first and second floor. I mean, I see that there. I was curious about this
There was one,
here.
oh, yeah, we can put one, yeah, we could put one there. That would be appropriate.
Well, you'll have to have room for the crown on
Right.
that window, so that might be a little difficult
We
there.
will do whatever you want us to do.
Budget's
Something like that's not gonna make or break the budget.
do you have
So
any feeling on
I
that?
think what you're asking is the frieze underneath the eave?
No.
Right over the, right at the bottom of the triangle.
At the bottom of the gables? at the-
Okay.
You know, that brown wood that goes across the entire face, separating the second floor from the gable.
Yeah, so you're asking about how that would intersect with the crown at the upper window?
Right, and whether or not that was going to have, you know, if a band board was gonna be put in there, how would a crown be fit above that window?
So typically, and I can provide you a sketch or some examples, typically on a house of this period, if there's a frieze board underneath that eave, which is what that band board would be called, is the frieze, there would not be a crown, the trim would just butt into that continuous frieze board, and that would be the very typical detail. So the crowns would go on the first floor, and the second floor would just simply butt into the frieze.
And would that typically be the same color as the rest of the siding, or would that be trim color, or does it matter?
Typically, it would be the trim color, so all trim would be one color on a simple two-color system, and then the body would be the other color, the contrasting color.
So when that stucco under the gables is removed, will there be a reveal of the eaves up there?
It's a really small one. It's like
Okay.
probably 6 inches, and because it's a smaller one and that's been kind of hacked away over the years too, we had discussed with Michael that we were gonna wrap that in aluminum. And we were gonna wrap that in aluminum, and there's a lot of colors of aluminum. There's a color that is very close to the trim color,
Okay.
so that it would flow and it'll look nice. Also, the gutters will be that same color.
A little bit more history on the house, from what we can tell architecturally. This is a very late Queen Anne house, and also has some overtones of the shingle style. Both of those would have very minimal eaves potentially, but the details all been lost over these remodeling. So again, without doing conjectural or falsifying architecture, I think the simpler and the better approach is to work with what's there and be simple rather than trying to recreate something that is a total guesstimate. So the proposal is not to try to modify those eaves in any way, but work with what's there and then coordinate the trim with it. So again, it's got not a pure restoration, because again, we don't have historic documentation, but trying to bring this house more in line with the quality of the rest of the neighborhood.
I think having some reveal on those eaves will be good, even if it's small, so
Yeah.
that will make a big difference. It'll look good.
It'll look really nice when
Yeah.
it's done.
any questions, George? Okay, if, unless anyone's, can I get a motion to approve?
Go ahead, George.
You need a microphone on. George, turn on your microphone.
Motion to approve 509 Peyton Street?
No.
Oh, 108.
Sorry, wrong one. Never mind. Don't get excited out there. Take it easy. Calm down. Calm down.
up on the screen.
Yeah, that one's got more issues, we gotta talk. No. Motion to approve 108 South Sixth Street as presented with some additional details that were provided that we approve of.
I second.
Okay,
Looks great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll take it a vote, Chip, so.
Oh.
Just gonna call a roll.
I'm gonna call a
Oh,
roll.
yeah.
call and roll.
Jensen,
You're good.
Yes, aye.
McManus,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Solomon,
Aye.
Stazen,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Have a nice evening.
You too.
You.
Next on our agenda is 509 Peyton Street. So
Sorry about that.
that's quite all right.
Just moving forward.
Case number 2024-29. I wonder what happened to 2024-24.
I wondered that too.
They've all been approved in between now. Talk about that later.
Okay.
So, case number 2429 is 509 Peyton Street, which is located in the far northwest corner of the local Geneva Historic District and is located at the far western edge of the North Geneva Historic District listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The property is a unique property in that the earliest part of it dates probably back to as early as the mid-1840s, but we know that by 1864 it was the home of a Civil War widow, Anna Eliza Secord, who was a local school teacher. Sometime in the 1920s, another small early house from Geneva was pushed to the site and added to the rear of the house. And so this is, again, a very interesting house in that it's an early settlement house and it's also a combination of two early settlement houses. I've provided the majority of the history in the staff report, so I'm not going to belabor that. The case before you is actually very straightforward. However, it's not a type of work that I can approve administratively. So as you can see from the pictures on the screen, it has a very unsafe, non-code compliant stone stoop, which is neither historically correct nor very safe for the occupants of the house. And so the request is to replace that stoop with a more traditional wood stoop that would complement the historic architecture of the house. The details that have been forwarded as part of the application show that the entire porch is to be made of wood, cedar material, and again, just replicating what is there. And the reason this is coming before the commission, or what would have been there, why this is coming to the commission is this could not be administratively approved because it is a front porch. So with that, I will turn it over to the applicants who can maybe elucidate us on additional information. But again, it's a fairly straightforward project, and if I've missed anything, we're happy to have your input.
Hi, I'm Carol Donahue, 1120 South Street. I'm one of the three owners. We're working with Sean Gallagher, he's drawn up the plans. But it's so cute. Do you have any questions? It's been vacant for 6 years, and it's just a disaster, but if you looked at the plans, it's just going to be a cute little tiny house.
I'm just curious, this has nothing to do with the porch, but the pushing of the two homes together. So is that what created the L-shaped, so that back portion was the second house that was adjoined to the front part, which was just basically now, I think, the living room?
Correct.
Yes.
And as I understand, there's different levels between the two sections, which further justifies the
Okay.
the information that's been provided that it was two houses pushed together.
I was just
And we've-
curious.
Well, in the old, or the newer part that was added to the back, there are 3 different levels of flooring, so we're going to try to peel 2 of those back just to try to get it a little more flush with that front house.
Yes, you are right. It's very cute. It's cute. It's so cute from the outside. And thank you both for taking the time and energy to repair it and bring it back to life and not demolishing it. So thank you very much for that. So I think your plans look great. I don't have any questions. I don't have any concerns. Just thank you.
I'm cool.
I'm good.
You're good. George, anything?
No.
No? I think I should say something, but I don't really have much to say either. So, but, well, Lisa, anything to add?
I don't have anything to add, no.
I think it's all going back, and it's actually, you're going back with cedar, so that's a natural material, is something that we like. And I don't, what's the porch material gonna be?
Cedar. It's a
Cedar also?
It will be cedar, yes.
Okay.
And the house currently has really heavy-duty cedar shakes that we are harvesting wherever we need so that we can replace areas that are kind of broken.
Very good. Okay. With that, I think if we can get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the application for 509 Peyton Street as presented.
Second.
A roll?
Jensen,
Aye.
McManus,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Solomon,
Aye.
Stazen,
Aye.
Zelmer.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thanks for coming in. With that, here, the secretary's report. Michael?
So I don't have a lot to report this evening. I will say that since our April 16th, 2024 HBC meeting, I've approved 8 permits on behalf of the commission. That's some of the missing numbers between the cases. And there are 8 more in process that will be approved by the end of this week. And then the only other thing is to remind anybody listening or in the audience, as well as the commissioners, that we do have a special HPC meeting scheduled for Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, which is next Tuesday. So are there any questions for staff?
What are we discussing, or we will find out when the agenda comes out?
The case on May 28th is a demolition request for the property at 117 South River Lane. It's duly posted already, so it's no secret that it's coming before us for a demolition request. And you will have the staff report at the end of this week.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any new business from the commission?
I do.
Okay. Ms. Jens.
I would just like to take this time and this opportunity to thank Michael for everything that he has done. I've had the pleasure of working with him for 3 years now, and he is just a wonderful person. He's a man of integrity, patience, and endless knowledge on so many topics. So I appreciate your patience with me for the last 3 years, and I appreciate everything that you have done for Geneva and for historical preservation.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
I agree with everything she says.
I'll move to second that.
And third.
Yeah.
And also, have, I don't want to use the word replacement because you cannot be replaced, but have they found somebody for your position?
I can report that an offer has been made to a very worthy candidate. We're waiting for the approval process and the acceptance process to work its way through the organization. But there is somebody who is very well qualified. I think will be a incredible successor to the work that I've begun here. So that announcement will be forthcoming shortly, I suspect.
Thank you again.
Yes. Thank you.
What about Don's position? Has that been filled?
My understanding is that the applications are open through Memorial, or through Tuesday after Memorial Day, so the 28th, is my understanding, or possibly to the end of the month, but that the mayor will be making a appointment shortly after that. I do know there are some applicants who've already shown interest in the vacant position.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Will you be interviewing them before you leave, or are you
You probably already
part
did.
of that process?
It depends on when they are name, but I don't think so, but we'll see. I come into work every day and see what is being asked of me.
So your last day is tentatively or definitely what?
My last day has been moved to June 17th,
Okay.
2024. I will be here till then, but I will not be here for a June HPC meeting, which is scheduled for June 18th.
Okay, and we don't know whether we're having one or not?
I do not know if we're having a meeting. So far, nothing has come in that would require a meeting. So no permit applications have come in that would require a meeting. And I also don't know if we have a quorum. I do know that with Don's absence and if a new commissioner's not named and that we have one other commissioner who has already said that they will not be here for the June meeting. If we have others who cannot attend, then there may not be a quorum either. So that will be something that David DeGroot and I will be looking at.
Okay. Good. Okay, with that, anything from the public? Okay. If nothing from the public, then,
Move to adjourn.
yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.